Hey guys, Tiffany with another video, and y'all, like, I can't even contain my excitement in this video because I finally got my hands on this palette. And if you guys are familiar with my channel, you already know I've been stalking this palette ever since it released. I kept trying to talk myself out of it, like, Tiff, you don't need that palette for that price. And then every time Sephora would have a sale, they'd go ahead and start the sale at midnight, and by like 12:03 this palette was always sold out. I was convinced that I was gonna never get my hands on it, and then look what came in the mail. I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. The packaging alone, the packaging of the outer portion of the palette alone just sucks you in. Like Auntie Pat, she just knows how to suck you in. This palette needs no introduction. I'm probably the last one to actually get my hands on it. I know you guys have seen 1001 videos, but I promised you guys if I ever got the palette, I would definitely come and do like a first impression, let you know my thoughts, let you know if I think it's worth the coins, or we need to save that money and all that other good stuff. So let's get started. So again, this is the Pat McGrath Labs Mothership 5 Bronze Seduction eyeshadow palette. Here is what the outer portion of the packaging looks like. Now, I was a little disappointed. Mine came through Sephora, and Sephora has been doing this thing now where they're not really packaging their products as well. Remember, Sephora used to have like all that extra bubble wrap and stuff in there. Now they're just kind of putting that brown paper, and when you have super expensive eyeshadow, bump that. They don't even have to be expensive. If you order a $10 eyeshadow palette from Sephora, Sephora needs to do better when it comes to their packaging, because that brown stuff is not doing anything. I have had to order the Natasha Denona cranberry palette twice from them because it came broken every time, and I just feel like Sephora, this is nothing to do with Pat McGrath, but Sephora needs to do better when it comes to their packaging. I was really nervous because my palette, like the outer portion right here, was all jacked up. It actually won't close in like it's supposed to. So I just knew that these shadows were going to be jacked up on the inside, but that is where I have to give a kudos to Pat McGrath and her company, because even though this is how, you know, the outer portion looks, the palette on the inside, it's so heavy. This material that they use, it is something that is going to keep your eyeshadows safe during travel. So I really appreciate that, because Sephora was about to have me jacked up. Sephora was about to get it. So this is what the actual palette looks like on the inside. I love the packaging, but I actually appreciate just the simple black and gold of the packaging. I actually don't think I would have cared for it as much had it had all that detail as the outer portion does. I think this is just super sleek, super classy. Now, you are going to get a whole lot of fingerprints on it, but that is not something that bothers me. And then the back of it is just a really pretty gold. So I love this. This is heavy. This is weighted. This, again, comes with some really good protection, and for $125, it should. Now, when you open it up on the inside, it does come with a really nice mirror. The mirror is really clear. I was able to do my makeup in this mirror, and it's a really nice sized mirror. But let's talk about these shadows, because these are definitely the star of the show. Oh my goodness. Now listen, I am not new to Auntie Pat's eyeshadows. I do have two of her mini palettes, so I am familiar with the pigmentation and just how luxurious her eyeshadows are, but I was never able to try out any of what they call the special shadows. So I was so glad to finally be able to test those out. You do get some mattes in the palette. Your matte shades are going to be this brown right here. Now, there are not any names on the palette. There is a card inside of the carton that comes with the names on it, but again, y'all probably know this because y'all done seen videos on it. I'm not mad about the palette not having any names. I think if the names were on there, it would have kind of taken away from the palette, so that does not bother me. But here are your matte shades right here. These three shades, this purple, this brown, light brown shade right here, and then this darker brown. And then you do have some shimmers. Again, you have these almost like topper shades, the special shades as they're called. And then you have like the metallic-y foiled almost shade. Look, this palette is gorgeous. Let's quickly go ahead and get into the swatches, and then I'll just come back and give you guys my initial thoughts on it after using the palette for a day. I did use it on this eye look. You guys know how I feel about first impression. I feel like your thoughts can always change, but I think my thoughts are pretty solid on this palette, which is why I wanted to do this video. So yeah, let's get into that and then I'll be back. So hands down, I do think thus far this is probably my favorite eyeshadow palette from Pat McGrath. Now, I knew when I saw this one I was gonna pick it up. I've always kind of just looked at her bigger palettes, but there was never anything about them that just stood out to make me want to purchase it. Like I said, I do have two of the smaller ones and I am really happy with those, but honestly I just never was drawn to any of her other palettes. But this one right here, like as soon as I saw the promo pictures, I knew I knew at some point that I needed this in my life. These are my kind of colors. These are my shades. This is my color story. This is my theme. I think the colors in here are absolutely gorgeous. Now, with that being said, I'm definitely not as hype about all of the eyeshadows equally. I do feel like there are a few dozen here. I think this shade right here was a bit of a letdown. Like it just didn't really do anything for me. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I didn't love it either. I think that when I do use it maybe on the lid, I'm probably going to have to put a really good base down to get something out of that. I don't know, like this shade just, it really didn't do it for me. And then I also felt like this lighter shade right here was a bit of a letdown as well. Again, it just, like it did nothing. It didn't inspire me. It didn't excite me. Like these two shades, I wouldn't have been disappointed if they were replaced with something else. This shade right here is my definite, like I love this. This is the shade that I'm wearing on my lid, but I did top it with some of this really pretty almost rose gold shade right here. I love all of these little special shades down here. I think they are absolutely gorgeous. I love the mattes in here. I think the mattes perform really well. They're super pigmented. Even this warmer brown right here, I was really surprised at how pigmented it was. I wasn't expecting that much pigmentation, but it's a lot deeper and more pigmented than what it may look like just looking at it in the pan. Like I said, overall, I'm really happy with this palette, but I do think those two shades, these two right here, were letdowns, and you know, it wouldn't have killed me if they weren't in the palette. Another thing I can say is that the topper shades, there's fallout. There is definitely fallout. I think it's going to be something where you just have to kind of learn how to use the shades. I feel like when you wet your brush before going into them, you get a better payoff and there is not as much fallout as trying to apply them dry. I used one of the topper shades like in the inner corner. But when I wet the brush, and I wet it pretty good, and then I actually dipped it into it and then applied it, I did still get a little bit of fallout, but again, it was not as much fallout as when I was trying to apply those shades dry on my lid. So that is definitely something to be aware of, because there is going to be fallout. You know, I think it's just the nature of the shade, but once you figure out how to work it and how to make it work for you, I think you can kind of get past that. Do I think this palette is a must-have, like you need it, like save your coins, you better go get it type of palette? I'm gonna be honest, I don't. I think it's really going to depend on where you are in your makeup journey. I think if you're someone that is just starting out, this is not the most like basic everyday type of palette that you would need. I think at some point you're gonna want to incorporate some other shades. Even today, you guys know I love a really warm brown in my crease, and those brown shades of the palette just weren't doing it for me as a whole, so I did have to incorporate another shade from another palette. But again, that's just me and that's my preference on how I like my eye looks. But I think if you're a beginner, this is not a beginner palette. I think if you are a little bit more seasoned in your makeup journey, and that doesn't mean that you have to be a makeup artist, that's if you're an enthusiast, a collector, like anything, I think this is a great addition to makeup that you may already have. I don't think this is a starter palette. It's clearly not a starter price, but I also don't think that that's what Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes are geared for. But I just had to throw that out there because I feel like I have a lot of people who are just starting out in makeup, and you guys are always asking me like, well, do you think this is something that's like beginner friendly or for just like the everyday girl or guy? Honestly, no. I don't. But I think if you already have, you know, some really good palettes, I think adding these colors and adding these shades and this palette to your collection, you definitely wouldn't be disappointed. I'm not disappointed for having it. I think it's going to be an amazing addition to my collection. I cannot wait to play around with it more. This was just something really spur of the moment that I created on the eyes, just wanting to use the palette and see how the shades will perform. Definitely not disappointed. I really love the look that I came out with, but I just don't think it's going to be a palette for everyone, and I think that's okay. So let me know what you guys are thinking of this palette. Let me know what you guys are thinking of this look that I created. I am going to try to get to doing more tutorials. I think I'm always in such a rush to get out as many videos as I can on my off day, and because tutorials can take a little bit longer, I usually don't always go for those, but I am going to try to do better. As soon as the holiday season is over, my hours at work are going to slow down, and I'm really going to get focused and dedicated here on my channel and really get these videos out to you guys. But let me know what you're thinking. If you've already picked this palette up, I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know if you guys want to see more looks from this palette, if that's something you guys are interested in, and anything else you want to tell me down below in the comment section. Why? Because I love and appreciate your feedback. That's why. But until next time, bye YouTube.